Fire was once a constant presence in the bedroom. Not a threat to be ignored, but, a force managed every night. Before switches and wiring, people slept beside flame and ember. Survival depended on design, habit, and discipline. Bedrooms were shaped around the danger. Every surface choice mattered. The bed itself came first. Early beds sat low and heavy. Thick wooden frames rested close to the floor. Oak and elm resisted quick ignition. Joinery was tight, no gaps for sparks to lodge. The weight reduced wobble. A stable bed kept bedding from sliding toward heat. Rope beds followed. Thick hemp cords stretched across the frame. They sagged under weight but stayed taut. Hemp chars slowly. It smells sharp when heated. That smell served as warning. A rope bed creaks under movement. At night, that sound signaled shifting blankets before danger spread. Mattresses were dense and layered. Straw-filled sacks tied tight. Chaff rustled with movement. Straw burns, but packed tight it smoulders first. That delay saved lives. Horsehair came later. It felt springy and coarse. It resisted flame better than straw. Wool stuffing added weight and insulation. Feather beds sat on top, not below. They stayed far from open flame, since feathers ignite fast. People, they knew this. Feather ticks were sewn tight with linen, no loose down escaping. The surface felt cool and heavy, and you really sank in and stayed put. Less shifting meant fewer sparks caught, which was important. Bedding choice, well, it followed strict rules. Wool blankets dominated. Wool, interestingly, self-extinguishes. It smells acrid when burned, and that smell wakes sleepers. Wool feels dense and slightly oily, and it muffles sound and heat. A wool blanket could, in fact, land near an ember and survive. Linen sheets lay beneath. Linen chars slowly, and it does not melt. It tears when burned, which alerts the hand. Cotton spread later and, honestly, proved dangerous. Cotton burns fast. Early households learned through loss. Linen stayed standard for sleeping. Furs appeared in colder regions. Sheepskin faced inward, hide faced outward. The hair side resisted flame, Leather scorches before burning through. The smell is unmistakable. That warning bought seconds. And, seconds mattered. Bed hangings demanded care. Curtains trapped warmth but risked fire. Heavy wool serge replaced lighter cloth. Curtains were tied back before sleep. Wooden testers held them high. Nothing brushed the hearth. The air gap was deliberate. Walls mattered. Bedrooms avoided soft paneling near heat. Lime plaster coated stone or lath. Lime resists fire. It flakes, not ignites. White surfaces reflected firelight. That glow revealed sparks. A dark room hides danger. A pale wall exposes it. Floors usually stayed bare near the bed, Stone brick or packed earth was pretty much the norm. Rush mats would be placed away from any flame just to be safe. Loose straw, that was absolutely banned at night. Footsteps on stone would echo softly, and that sound really carries in the darkness. Any movement would alert others, even if you were trying to be quiet. Ceilings tended to rise higher in sleeping rooms. It's because, heat climbs and smoke gathers above. A high ceiling could delay suffocation, which was honestly a real concern. Blackened beams showed evidence of past close calls with fire or smoke. People would read those marks almost like records, and they'd adjust their habits based on the scars left behind. The hearth's placement, it really defined the room. In bedrooms, it would always stay small, just low fires or sometimes only banked coals. A metal fireback would shield the wall behind, since iron reflects heat forward. Sparks would bounce off rather than stick, which helped a lot, and those firebacks, they'd ring softly when struck by embers, almost like a quiet warning in the night. Grates lifted fuel above ash. Ash smothers sparks, you know. Wood burned slow. Resinous pine stayed out, while oak and beech dominated. They cracked less, leading to fewer flying embers. The sound of steady burn soothed sleepers. Fire screens stood between bed and hearth, woven metal or perforated tin, really. They hiss when struck, and that noise wakes light sleepers. Screens catch rolling embers, but they tip and clatter if bumped. Another warning. Lighting habits reduced risk. Candles were snuffed early. Rushlights burned dim and slow. Beeswax dripped less, while tallow sputtered and popped. That sound kept users alert. Lamps were rare in bedrooms. Bedtime routines, you know, really enforced safety. Fires were banked, coals raked flat, and ash spread thick. The room cooled, but, well, it stayed safe. Someone always checked last, often the oldest. Authority enforced the habit. Night clothing definitely mattered. Linen shifts, wool caps, no loose sleeves, and no trailing cords. Clothing brushed the skin close, and less fabric meant less ignition. Bare feet felt the floor temperature. Heat warned of fire spread. Room layout followed certain rules. Beds were placed away from the hearth, with the path kept clear and nothing stored between. Trunks stayed closed, since lids could starve fire while open baskets invited sparks. Windows, you know, stayed cracked, not wide though, just enough for a draught. Smoke escapes that way. Fresh air feeds the flame, but, well, controlled airflow mattered. Shutters were thick wood, they closed fast. Glass was costly and honestly quite fragile. Sound really played a role. Houses were quiet at night. Any crackle stood out. A falling coal sounds sharp on stone. People trained their ears. Sleep was light near the fire. Deep sleep meant death. Tools stayed close. A leather bucket hung by the door usually. Sand or water inside. Leather resists heat, you see. A long hook leaned on the wall. It pulled burning bedding away. Speed saved rooms. Community habits reinforced safety. Shared houses meant shared risk. A single fire endangered all. Rules were enforced harshly. Fines followed negligence. Reputation mattered. Carelessness marked a family. As cities grew, rules formalized. Curfews for fires became common. Night watches checked chimneys, making sure everything was safe. Bedroom fires were reduced by law and by habit. The bedroom became safer without losing its warmth. Modern bedrooms, well, they often forget these lessons. Soft synthetics burn fast, you know. Foam melts and drips. Smoke turns toxic and silence hides danger. Hard surfaces still matter and wool still protects. Distance, too, still saves lives. Use this knowledge. Keep heat sources clear and choose natural fibers when you can. Maintain clear floors. Train your ears and your habits. Fire safety, honestly, begins at the bed, not the door. Subscribe for deeper historical survival insight. Share this with someone who sleeps beside risk. Fire never changed, only attention did.